Hey everyone, welcome back to the One Verse Devotional podcast. It's Matt as always, and on Saturday, welcome to the weekend by the way, on Saturday we love to look at Proverbs. That's my word for this year is wisdom, and so we've gone from one verse being a 5-day-a-week devotional to a 7-day-a-week devotional, and one of the major things that we've changed is adding these Proverbs in on Saturday, and I'm enjoying it. I'm loving getting these little bits of wisdom, and I think that they can just mean so much for our life. Now, I'm going to warn you, today's is a little tough. It's a little hard to hear, but I think it's an important principle for our lives and especially for our spiritual lives because, well, you'll just see. All right. I don't want to give too much away or you'll just stop this video right here. And so it's going to be a little bit tough, but just stick with me and listen to the entire video before you just get upset and like turn it off and be like, well, he doesn't know me and my life. And just, I'll try to share some of my own personal experiences with this topic that we're going to dive into today. It's Proverbs 3 verse 9. And it says, our one verse today, honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all your crops. And you might even already be groaning a little bit like, oh, he's going to talk about money. He's going to talk about tithing. He's going to talk about giving money to the church. Yes, I am. All right. But here's why. It's not for the church even. It's for you. All right. And I can say this because I'm not really your pastor. Like, you don't pay my salary. You don't give me any money. I don't charge for this podcast. So I'm not in this weird position where like, okay, well, you give money and that goes to my salary, which pastors should be able to talk about money anyway. I believe that with all my heart. But I understand that can be a little bit tough, especially if people are like, well, you're talking about this because you want to make sure that you have a salary. Well, you don't pay my salary, so we can talk about money. Okay. And so we're going to dive into this because really the truth about money is it has so much to do with our heart. Matter of fact, later on, Jesus makes it clear that he wants our heart. He wants our heart, not our money. But Jesus tells us later on that he understands that where our money is, where we spend our money, many times shows us what we care about. It shows us where our heart is. And so that's kind of the first question is, if it comes to money and the church, and you're immediately defensive, is that a yellow flag? Is that a red flag that shows you where your heart is? Okay? I'm just asking these questions. It says, honor the Lord with your wealth. And I think that very first word is the key. Honor. That we would honor the Lord. So you might think, well, the tithe is only in the New Testament or only in the Old Testament, and it's not in the New Testament, and so we don't have to tithe, and it's not very biblical. I've heard all those things. I'm not telling you here today that you have to tithe, but here's the principle of this verse: 2 things. Honor the Lord with your wealth. Now you might think, well, I'm not very wealthy. Whatever money you have, it's from God. Second, with the first fruits of all your crops. It doesn't even say here to tithe. It doesn't even say how much. I'll leave that between you and God. But what it says is the first fruits, that whatever you feel like you're supposed to give to God, 1, give with a cheerful heart. We learned that in Corinthians. And 2, that you would bring the first fruits. Why? It's not a question of a command. It's not saying you have to give this much and you have to give 10%. And I don't care about all that. It comes down to the first word that I said. Honor the Lord, that you would want to bring honor. And how do you do that? By being obedient and saying, God, I understand that this first portion of my income is for you. And whatever you decide that first portion to be, I'm okay with. Just make sure that you and God are okay with it, okay? I know this is hard to hear. I know it's a tough one, but there's a reason that this is in Proverbs. All right. Solomon understood that we need to honor the Lord with our wealth, that we need to bring the first fruits of our crops, it says here, of our income to God, because it shows God honor and it shows where our heart is. and it allows us to kind of let go of the anxiety and the stress that can come with money. And you're like, no, holding on to my money lets go of the anxiety and the stress. I know it seems that way at first, but when you begin to let your money go a little bit, you're living with open hands and not closed fists. When you're trying to hold on to it so tightly, that's all you can focus on. But when you live your life with an open hand, and that's not just your money, that's your gifts, your talents, your resources, your time. But when you live your life with an open hand, not only are you able to live more free, you're also able to receive gifts, receive love, receive deeper relationships with others, receive a deeper relationship with God. Does this all have to do with money? It does, because it has to do with our hearts. And so again, I know this is kind of tough, but I challenge you to honor the Lord with your money. That you would give the first fruit to him and allow him not just to have your money, he doesn't want your money, but allow him to have your heart. That's what God really wants. Have a great day.